so much. I love you so much. I love you so much. I love you so much.
Hello, all you positive heads out there. Thanks for tuning your beautiful brainwaves into another episode of the Positive Head Podcast, where we are firmly convinced that creating success and happiness is rooted in understanding the ultimate nature of reality and the fact that as human beings, we are all immensely powerful fractals of the one and only source consciousness, which creates and animates all things. Now, of course, understanding this powerful truth is one thing. Applying this incredibly empowering wisdom to everyday life? Well, that's another, which is exactly why we provide you with a fresh serving of soul food for thought 5 days a week to help constantly remind you of what matters most. You are it. And I'm your host, Brandon Beecham. I'm the reflection and extension of you who will be here each Wednesday interviewing a different consciousness changemaker. And on the other 4 weekdays, leading the way to ensure that your perspective is consistently expanded, your vibration is constantly elevated, and your heart is overflowing and full. Also, before we jump into today's episode, I'd like to take a moment to tell you about a few sponsors that not only help to make it possible to produce this show 5 days a week, but that I'm also genuinely passionate about promoting, especially since they're helping to fund all the cool projects we have in the works, such as the Positive Head app, the docuseries that I'm intending to begin shooting within the next year, and whatever else we dream up over here at Positive Headquarters to help spread consciousness across the planet. Now, if you're short on time or just super excited for today's topic and want to dive right in and skip these ads, feel free to fast forward about
2.5 minutes
to get right into today's show. That being said, I strongly encourage you to listen because the reason I'm passionate about my sponsors is because they've made a huge impact in my own life, which is why I've aligned with these organizations. And I firmly believe they can do the same for you too. The first longtime stellar supporter of the show that I want to mention is Gaia. If you're not familiar, Gaia is the go-to source for streaming consciousness content online with over 8,000 video titles. And you can sign up for your first month for only 99 cents at gaia.com/positivehead. That's spelled GAIA.com/positivehead. The second sponsor I'm extremely passionate about promoting is Purium. The reason I've aligned Positive Head with Purium is because I wholeheartedly stand behind their mission to end human suffering by making superfoods easily available to everyone, with the ultimate goal to help restore mankind's harmony with nature in the process. I mean, what a noble mission, right? It's no mystery that you need to bring your mind, body, and spirit into balance if a person truly intends to manifest the greatest and grandest version of themselves. And for me, for years, I honestly felt like I was ahead of the curve in the mind and spirit category, but I was only average at best in the level of care I administered to my body. Sure, I was healthy-ish when it came to the food I put into my system, but after doing a Purium 40-day transformation with a 10-day metabolic reset and cleanse, I can honestly say I have reestablished my relationship with food in a very positive way. Not only did I drop the extra weight that I was carrying as a natural byproduct of the transformation so that I'm now at my ideal body weight, but I continue to feel like my best self by starting every day with an organic Purium power shake that is made from raw superfood ingredients that were meticulously harvested, thoughtfully combined to optimize the nutritional impact it has on my body. I view the shake as plant medicine, really, and it happens to taste really delicious, and I can make it in about 30 seconds. There's actually 4 core Purium products that I take every day, and honestly, I intend to do so for the rest of my life for a very scientifically sound reason. And if you want to learn more about those reasons, you can go check out my video at positivehead.com/transformation, where I go into more detail. If you end up buying any of the Purium products, be sure and use the code POSITIVEHEAD, all one word, for a 25% discount. Greetings and salutations, Positive Heads. Welcome, welcome. Happy to be here with you again. Here we go. Here we grow again. let's see. Today, I am going to take a question from a listener who wishes to remain anonymous. And that reminds me to remind you that I like getting questions from you guys. Haven't taken as many lately, but taken one today. And so I guess I have taken questions lately, if I'm about to. Oh, who knows? This time-space thing is awfully confusing at times. But yeah, I'd love to receive your questions. You can write me at brandon@positivehead.com, and I may get to them. I certainly always save them and archive them, and then, kind of revisit what I'm feeling. And sometimes the question just pops up and I want to take it on the spot. It all depends how things flow, but would love to hear your questions. You can also leave them on the Facebook group, which is Positive Heads with an S. If you guys, gals, extraterrestrials, any of you out there listening are not in the Facebook group, please join us there. We'd love to see your bright, shiny, happy face and connect with you. It's a wonderful place to connect with other listeners. It's private, so you can open up and get personal if you so desire. And yeah, so you can also ask questions there. Let's see. Before I jump into the question today, I would like to read a review on iTunes. And this one came in by Lenny ZO. And by the way, you guys can also review on CastBox, which is now sponsoring this podcast, supporting us, helping to reach new people as well. Reviewing on iTunes, of course, helps us to reach new people. It is the holy grail of all things podcasting, but CastBox is really helping to put us out there to the world and promote us to other people, new listeners. And for that, I am very thankful, grateful. So I recommend checking out their app. If, all of you guys are listening different ways, different places that you can access this show, but definitely check out the CastBox app if you haven't done so. They're doing some cool things for podcasters, specifically this one. So I definitely recommend that. But let's see. This one came in on iTunes from Lenny ZO, and the title is Woohoo with a lot of exclamation marks. And Lenny said, the best podcast you will ever discover. Do your soul a favor and listen. 11 out of 10 will have the best day ever. Love you so much. Oh, thank you, Lenny ZO, for doing that, for taking the time. The short but sweet but powerful review means the world. I'm going to read one more since that one was short. And this one came in by Alyssa T with the positivity. Amazing, fabulous, outstanding. As a newcomer to leading a more positive and pure life, this has been so very helpful. So grateful to be on this path and to know there's others I can relate to. Thank you so much for this podcast. I will be downloading Gaia soon too. Blessings, and please keep it up. Oh, I'm glad that you said, and thank you, Alyssa, for bringing up the Gaia thing, because, well, hold on. I'm getting ahead of myself. All these thoughts race through my mind. For one, thank you for taking the time to review. It means the world. Secondly, Gaia. So people have been asking, I've been getting some questions. There's been some drama in the Gaia world. Some of you have asked about it in the Facebook group, specifically with David Wilcock, who's sort of a staple over there and has run multiple shows, one of which is Cosmic Disclosure. And people were asking what's going on with that and basically what my opinion is. And here's my thoughts. I don't give a lot of energy to, disruptive stuff in general. As you guys know, I like to focus on what is good in the world as much as possible. Of course, if something really negative was happening, and that's basically what David is claiming, some pretty interesting things about Gaia, that they're run by Luciferians and some weird stuff. And you guys know, if you've checked out Cosmic Disclosure, it's all about the hidden secret space program and some of this the truth-seeking category. This show would fall under the transformation category on Gaia. They really have three different kind of targets. They have yoga-type stuff. They have truth-seeking, and they have transformation. And truth-seeking is like, hey, what's being, what's hidden? Extraterrestrials. How were the pyramids built? Things like that. Transformation is all about the type of things we talk on this show. So I'm interested. I'm very interested in the truth-seeking stuff, and I explore it all with a very open mind, as you all know. I'm never one to say it is or isn't so, unless I have some very firsthand experience, or I really, really, believe it in my heart, soul, and mind, like I do with a lot of the things that I talk about on this show. Am I going to say the things on cosmic disclosure, all the wild, claims about things that are going on behind the veil, behind, with the secret government, secret space program, et cetera, are or aren't happening? I think it's possible. I think it's very possible. I don't have any firsthand experience, so I can't say it is or isn't. What I do know is, as far as this whole David Wilcock thing, is you have someone who is focused for many, many years on all the secrets and whistleblowers and what we're being lied to about. And, people are trying to, supposedly even have attempted taking his life because he's exposing things he shouldn't be about, the secret government and all these things. Here's what, it didn't surprise me to see that he all of a sudden, did a public announcement that he's severing ties with Gaia and they're run by Luciferians and, this sort of thing. And it's like, if your life is focused on, what is happening that's scary and bad and everything's a conspiracy, guess what? Everything becomes a conspiracy, every relationship. So it didn't surprise me that evolution happened for him. We're now, I read the email that he sent to them that was released publicly, and he basically was referencing another show called Ancient Civilizations, where, they talk about, the fact that these beings that originally seeded our planet. You got to watch the show, but it's like looking at all the ancient text, the Gnostic Gospels, as they call them. And, he tied that to somehow that the Gaia was supporting that this is what the case is and this is how things go. And it's this, I don't know. It seems far out to me. I know my interaction with people at Gaia, I haven't met any Luciferians that I know of. Maybe I don't know if I'd know one if I saw one. I know people, they're pleasant as can be, and there's a lot of amazing content. I like the way they approach, even the shows. They say, hey, at the beginning of all the truth-seeking stuff, hey, this isn't necessarily our beliefs or not. We're just exploring these on these shows. So, my thoughts are is David has gotten into a state of, somewhat paranoia, which if you're constantly looking over your shoulder, thinking you're exposing all these, these shadowy things and they're out to get you, everything starts to look like the enemy. So that's my 2 cents on that. For those of you who have been asking, my experience with Gaia has been wonderful, obviously, and there's a lot of amazing content on there. I don't necessarily think everything in truth seeking that is talked about is true or the case. I think that, I explore it with an open mind, and until I see matter of factly for myself, I just I'm interested, curiously, we'll hear and check it out. And I wish, of course, David Wilcock the best. And, I know my contact at Gaia, I talked to him a little bit about it, and he was very sad that it happened. He was like, we feel, betrayed on our end. We feel very disappointed. They'd put a lot of energy into him. And so, yeah, anyway, that's all I want to say about that for now. And I want to move right along into the question for today. As I mentioned, this listener asked to remain anonymous, and he wrote in and said, Brandon, I first off want to thank you for so many things, for being such an upbeat voice to keep us P-heads elevated, for having such drive and passion in all that you do, and for bringing everything that you are to this world at a time when it needs it most. You're a true inspiration and a beacon of light and love in the world. I would like to remain anonymous if you read this on the air, if you wouldn't mind. I'm in the midst of the awakening process and have been heavily engaged for several years. I feel I am an advanced novice at this point in my journey and want to begin to teach others what I've learned through experience in studying this art form of life expression and understanding. But before I do, I feel I need to finish this current lesson I am stuck on right now. I'm a person who appears outwardly successful, confident, and maybe even slightly arrogant to those who don't know me well. I have recently experienced a lengthy period of significant adversities, which is actually what started this process of awakening in the first place. I had cancer in 2007 at age 26, and in 2010 at age 29, that changed my life forever. The second of these illnesses were followed by a year of unparalleled negative experience that made me question my place here in this world. You see, I've worked in law enforcement for 18 years, and in that one particular year after my last cancer fight, I witnessed 4 suicides, helped my community through 3 significant natural disasters, and was on the verge of divorce from the absolute love of my life because I had become bitter and unbearable. I stood on a precipice of life at a certain moment and deeply asked the question, what is life? Because there had to be more than this. I mean, what the hell was happening? I wasn't living at all. I was slowly being tortured to death, and thus started in this current quest for answers and a higher purpose. I questioned why I'm here. Why is all this happening? Why is the reason I'm going through all of this? Since that moment, I have never stopped searching and listening for the answer. I started my path for true existence, purpose, and truth with traditional religion, which quickly pushed me into scientific debates since none of it ever made sense to me, which led me into esoteric teachers and subjects like much of what Gaia provides. It also led me to try and find a way out of law enforcement, since that way of life is not conducive to the one I wish to live. But I found myself trapped in this career that is so far from my nature and who I am now. I am striving to be positive, vibe high, and attract the corresponding experiences, people, and places that match where I want to be. But as you can imagine, it's very hard for a man in my situation, which leads me to my current block. How do I break free? The repeating life pattern that has come up recently is that I've been thrust into a role as the whistleblower for change in paradigms that I see as unjust, unfair, or unethical. This has happened several times in the last few years of this career, and as you can imagine in my line of work, if you cross the blue line and go against the grain, you instantly sign your career death warrant. But no matter what I do, I keep ending up in situations where I see injustice, corruption, and abuse of power, and eventually feel compelled to act and shed light on what is wrong, only to seemingly be at the short end of the stick in the end, facing my own adversity as a result of standing up for what is right. In much of what you teach in this podcast and what is spoken about in Oneness by Rasha, which I am obsessed with, by the way, it says to avoid conflict and sidestep and the need to engage it when it arises. But in other instances, it says that the universe often selects you to be the tool for the catalyst of change. Sidestepping the conflict almost seems like tucking and running like a coward, but being the protector keeps on creating adversity for me and eventually setbacks in my life. I don't know how to break my current cycle of life, which I feel is a necessary step before moving on and sharing my knowledge and story of my journey this far. It's been several years of self-reflection, silence, and solitude, much of which has not done much to yield answers for peace, to provide significant shifts in my life to get me out of this life pattern. I guess what I'm looking for is, how can someone who is in such a tough life circumstance make such a drastic shift into a more peaceful, unified way of life when all you are faced with on a daily basis is negative, ego-driven, selfish, or downright evil people? It's nearly impossible to vibe high when you are around all this, combined with being caught in between closed-minded cop types and those of the more spiritual and hippie world that are apprehensive of a man with my background. I'm putting this out there to the universe, hoping to have some answers delivered, since I've really tried to find the answers from within and have not received the help I have been so patient and quietly asking for. What can I do to rise above the negativity I see, escape the closed-minded world I am immersed in, and sidestep the conflicts I keep being thrust into? I meditate daily, high vibe on a good diet, put up my walls to shield me from the negativity, but I feel like my mental muscles are getting weak, and you can only tread water for so long. I know I can't be the only one who wants to trade their superficial life for a more connected and peaceful one, but finds it hard to transition. And I feel this is an extreme example that may set the template for others to follow. I just know that I'm at the point where I need help from this community that I want to belong to. Peace and success to you, brother, and thank you for taking the time to read this. Sincerely, a seeker. All right. Well, that is quite a mouthful. That is a lot of energy in that email you can hear in this question. And it's one that I'm sure a lot of people can relate to. And it is, I imagine, particularly challenging in law enforcement, which, is sort of has a certain energy signature like everything does, right? Where there is plenty of amazing people in law enforcement, surely, but there's also a lot of the things that he's referencing, closed-minded behavior, certainly some ego and control issues that are playing themselves out. And, what I instantly think of, at the top of this, First off, this seeker referred to me as a beacon of light, which I love because my name means beacon on a hill, and it resonates, and it's just a beautiful reference. So thank you for that. But what I thought of instantly when I read it was, well, where does a lighthouse go? Right? It's not in the middle of a bunch of other lighthouses, oftentimes, and it's in the middle of the darkness. And where is this seeker at? This seeker is in the middle of a bunch of things that don't resonate, right? It's a light that's emerging, this butterfly that wants to break out of the cocoon, but is just troubled by the environment around it. It makes me think, interestingly, of the episode that we just released with Peter Sage. Where was Peter Sage at? Peter Sage was, if you listen to it, it's an amazing story where he went to jail for 6 months, and he saw it as his opportunity to be a lighthouse in the darkest of places, right? In like hardcore, highest security prison, one of the highest security, roughest places in Europe. And so this seeker is in a similar situation. And what you're hearing there is there's resistance to what is. There's resistance to the circumstance. It sounds like you've been through a dark night of the soul, which is sort of something that everyone goes through. It's part of the cocoon process. It's probably a pretty dark experience for the caterpillar at some point, right? As it's melting into goo to turn into a butterfly. And so it sounds like this seeker has been through a lot and is still now wrestling. How do I break free is even, one of the questions that was asked. How do you break free of anything, right? By stopping resistance. It doesn't mean, by the way, that you run and hide. Be your truth. What if every day you're saying, okay, I'm in this situation and I'm the lighthouse that's meant to be here. And what a beautiful, perfect, challenging scenario you find yourself, your career, your finances, you're thinking, okay, this is how I support myself. This is the job that can bring me the money. And I don't know anything else. I've been doing this for, almost 20 years, what have you. Well, first off, that's a story about, if that is, I'm assuming that's probably part of the reason you haven't looked for another opportunity or haven't found another opportunity, because there's probably a story there about, this is who I am, this is what I do, and to make the same money or better elsewhere isn't something that's a possibility for me. So your bag of sugar that you're holding to be filled is very limited. You've told the story around that is what I would intuit and assume. So first off, let's start telling the story of, this is ultimately something that you're growing through and that you're going to transition out of and become more because of it. And for that, it is a wonderful, wonderful gift. And while you're still there, which you are, you're going to control the one thing that you control, and that's your vibration. You're doing the diet, you're meditating, you're doing those things, but there's conflict in you about all these. Do I run? Do I hide? Do I fight? What if you just loved all of that? What if you just loved the cop energy that you're dealing with? What if you just were the example without really overthinking any of it, just being who and what you are in that moment, and then letting the cards fall where they may? You talked about being on the short end of the stick when you live your truth or whatever. Okay, so not saying it can't create challenging situations for you. Certainly it can. But what if you just are authentically living your truth 110% and knowing that even though that seems challenging and creates challenges for you, that's what's sharpening your axe. That's what's making you the man that you're evolving into more and more. So any challenges that arise from you being your authentic truth are shaping you and moving into a state of trust that if you are being your authentic self, even if it creates ripples, it creates waves for you, that those waves are what are actually shaping you and going to propel you into where you're meant to be next. I think of Derek Rydall, who I have done multiple interviews with. I believe it's the most recent 627 and then 632, where he tells his story of where he tells his story of being a successful actor and then sort of that crumbling for him, and him then waiting tables is the only thing he could do, and him being humiliated waiting tables in LA, with people that he had acted with, and just like, oh my gosh, how has my life come to this? And then he had that moment where he said, you know what? I'm here. I'm doing this. I'm going to be the best waiter I can possibly be. I'm going to go above and beyond. And I'm just going to exude confidence and love. And how do I be this moment where I find myself 120%? And it caused waves for him, you'll hear in his story. But what ultimately happened is he was no longer a vibrational match for that job. And within months, he's on like jets and like making all this money because circumstances arose that led him somewhere else. Do you understand? All of you, do you understand that there is no out there at all? Like, if you can move into a state where you are so trusting and have so much faith, the universe will present opportunities that are a match to your vibration that you haven't thought of. You don't need to think it out what the next move is. Love where you're at and do it 120%. Be your authentic self 120%. Right now, there's all this conflict in the person that wrote in. And what if you just stop with all that and you just say, I'm going to be the shiniest light at this possible. If this person is being egotistical or unjust things are happening, I'm going to be a light in the face of it, and I'm just going to do the best I can from where I'm at with what I've got. And I'm going to just stop all the thinking about getting out of it and all the how do I escape and all this tortured energy that's coming up. That's conflict in yourself, right? Your way through it is non-resistance. What you resist persists. And you have created a wonderful scenario of challenge, a wonderfully challenging scenario for yourself to come through the other side in a way like Derek Rydall did, where he just launched himself out of that job because it just was no longer a vibrational match for the magic that he was being vibrationally. It couldn't sustain him anymore. He had to go. It's not a fit. It's oil and water. And that's what you'll do to yourself. Right now, you're still a fit because there's what is in you. There's conflict, there's resistance, there's I want something different. There's all these things that are keeping you locked in. And you're trying to think your way out of it by, how do I get through this with the mind? Move into pure emotion, pure heart. That's the one thing that you can control is your emotion, your emotional energy. That is the one thing that you can do. Is you can choose to feel really, really, really good about where you're at. That's the whole trick. And we talk about this over and over and over again. And these are unique scenarios. We are going to revisit this from every angle until it sinks in, because it's like for a lot of us, it's like all this stuff sounds really good until then we get in the scenario where we're expected to use it, and it's like we completely forget it, and we're like, okay, yeah, that all sounds great in theory, but now I'm in this situation, and what do? I can't get out of it. It's like, no, you can control how you feel. You can choose to stop all resistance to this job. And that will there's unending ways the universe can bring other opportunities to you where you make more money with that's more in alignment. Start telling that story. Hey, I'm on my way to a job that makes more money, that is a perfect vibrational match to what I've become. And in the meantime, I'm still playing out some of the vibration from my past, which is meaning this job that I've been in for 20 years almost. And in the meantime, I'm just going to love it up on my way to what's next. I don't need to know exactly how. I don't need to figure it out. Maybe at some point I'll have an inspiration that I want to take up, learning something else or a tool. Like, let's say I wanted to go into real estate, for example. Oh, all of a sudden I realized that could be the path, and I'm inspired to start studying and taking the classes. Just an example. Or maybe something randomly comes into your life. The person that you go on the next call to help at their house as a police officer, and they run a company, and you connect with them, and then they want to hire you. Who knows how it can come? It can come from a myriad of ways. It is infinite. You are infinite. And the thing to do is love what you are, where you're at, and just all the stories, let them fall away. You are the lighthouse. Okay, I'm going to listen to a clip here. We're going to listen to a clip here, rather. And this one, of course, I wanted to see what Abraham had to say about this one. And this clip is, instead of quitting your job, raise your vibration. So let's get a little backup on this topic. And there's some definite good things, I'm sure, here that will help to support everything that we're talking about so far. Take a listen. Oh, and by the way, I found this on the Abraham-Hicks videos YouTube page. Take a listen.
What would quitting look like? If, for someone in the vortex, let's say you did raise your vibration, would you just know intuitively that now I'm enjoying myself at work, it's fine, and I simply want to drive around in a smaller version of the monster bus and have fun at 50?
It's never a good idea to say that it's always this way, but here's a general view. If you, from your unhappiness, quit, then there's temporary poverty sets in. In other words, because the dollars stop flowing. And that environment is usually not all that conducive to raising vibration, although you might feel freer in not having to put up with the unpleasant things that you've been putting up with. So usually things don't get much better. And after an interim of unemployment, there is usually the finding of another job that is pretty much at the vibrational level of the last one. Where if, instead of quitting, you decide that you're going to raise your vibration, then one of two things happens. You raise your vibration to the point that something much more pleasing reveals itself to you, and so while you do quit, you quit not in the spirit of leaving something unwanted behind, but in the spirit of gravitating towards something wanted. And then there's no lapse in pay, you see. So the question, and of course that's pretty obvious. Everyone would rather have a new, shiny opportunity, whether it's a job or a relationship waiting, than leave something unwanted and stand in that lackful interim hoping for something else. In other words, we get how obvious the scenario is that we've laid out here. How the new job waiting is much better than the no job waiting. But what most people don't understand, that we understand so fully, is that the potential for something wonderful right where you stand is huge if you can find a different frequency. And what that brings forward, what we really want you to consider is, are you letting what is control the level of your vibration? Or are you choosing the level of your vibration by meditating or by deliberately releasing resistance, and then allowing the vortex which has trained your vibration to a higher frequency to evoke or to bring to it the details of life that match that? That's really where we started here today, as you can think your way through all of this, which usually just overwhelms you and leaves you coming to conclusions that are not accurate, flawed premise after flawed premise. Or you can accept that you are a vibrational being, use your emotions to let you indicate as clear indicators of where you are vibrationally, make an intention to raise your vibration, which simply means release resistance. And as the vortex trains you into that higher frequency, you will be astonished at how many wonderful things will show themselves to you. There's a story Jerry used to tell about acres of diamonds. The story was that it was all right there in the backyard all along. Jerry said he used to use an expression, bloom where you are. And there are a lot of people that catch little snatches of that, but we want to give you the universal law basis for all of this. And what it is you are an emitter of a vibration that you have control over. But you, like almost everybody else you know, are doing a terrible job of controlling your vibrational emitting. You're letting what you're observing be your reason for it, you see. And in this chaotic environment where you are receiving so much feedback on so many different subjects at so many different vibrational levels so rapidly, most of you are in a sort of vibrational chaos. And most are creating by default. Most are having knee-jerk reactions to what they're observing and then complaining about what comes back in response. And when you get hold of it, when you realize that you can feel the way you want to feel, even there at work. Now, Esther's been saying to Jerry, because they've had the advantage of this meditation CD for a bit longer than you all have had access to it. And they are totally addicted to it in the sense that they know every time, surefire, they're going to feel even better after they listen to it than they do before. In other words, it raises their vibration every single time. Because in every moment of every day, there's a new set of criteria about who they have become. And so once you start taking control of what you're doing vibrationally, and you start then noticing the results of having taken that control, you never want to go back again. And then you catch yourself in the earlier subtle stages of constructing something unwanted. They had a very interesting, chaotic, and ultimately satisfying book launch with this book. Esther said, isn't it ironic that this is a book about getting in the vortex, and the book launch itself jerked me out to the point of whiplash? Because the book was launched on November 15th, and on November 16th, no one could find a book anywhere. They sold out, and some of them were defective in some way, and that was when Esther found herself, what else could go wrong? Because everything that could go wrong went wrong with that book launch. Everything that could go wrong. The publisher didn't print anywhere near enough, and then when they were sold out, no one could get them. So it went from number 2 on Amazon. They were between George Bush and Wimpy Kid. For days and 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 days, and then suddenly, no books available. Amazon took them completely off their website altogether. It was marked unavailable for now. And Jerry and Esther said, maybe we need to listen to that thing. In other words, uncontrollable situation, nothing that they could do anything about, certainly justified in the negative emotion that they were feeling, but everything that they were feeling completely contradicted everything they know and believe and everything that's written in that book. Because what's written in that book is, you can control the way you feel regardless of whatever the current situation is. Whatever the current situation is, you can control the way you feel. Maybe not this red hot minute. You might have to write some scathing emails first. You might have to complain to your husband to the point that he wants to run away from home. In other words, we're not saying that you can do it this red hot minute, but ultimately what it comes down to is you have a choice. You can control the way you feel. And if we were standing in any of your physical shoes, we would not put up with negative emotion, not even for a little bit. And we would not ask one other person to do one other thing differently in order to try to support the way I feel. Because if the way I feel is dependent upon what a publisher does, or what a friend does, or what a neighbor does, or what a job does, or what an employer does, or what a friend does, or what a child does, or what a partner in a relationship does, if your happiness is dependent upon what one other person does, be very afraid. Because you cannot control what anyone else does, but you can control the direction of your thought. And so let us just say it to you softly. You may not be able to control it this red hot minute because you've got vibrational things going on, and law of attraction's bringing you more stuff like it, but you can eventually control it. You can eventually feel better. You can eventually get control of your vibration. You can eventually raise your vibration. You can eventually allow the vortex to bring you in. You can eventually do it. If not this red hot minute, you can eventually do it. And once you show yourself that you can feel better, and once you then see what feeling better yields to you in terms of manifestation, you say, I don't care how long it takes, because I wasn't waiting for the manifestation in order to have a response to the manifestation. I've learned how to feel good pre-manifestation. I've learned how to feel good right now. So the manifestation is irrelevant. How I feel is the only thing that is relevant, you see. And I got control over that. Getting more control every day. Getting better at it every day. Because I want to feel good. I want to feel good. Everything that I do, everything that I want, whether it's a material object, a state of being, a pile of money, a relationship, an enterprise, an empire, every single thing I want, no matter what it is, I want because I think I will feel better in the having of it. And we'll say, you can just turn one little thing. I don't have to have the manifestation of it to feel better. I can feel better now. I can feel better now. Because what's keeping me from feeling better is an opinion that doesn't square with the opinion of the source within me. So if I decide that person is not a good person, that's never going to square with the source within me. And I'm going to feel negative emotion, and I'm going to use that as my excuse to not get in my vortex for as long as that's my opinion. If I've decided that I'm not as good as someone else, that doesn't square with my inner being. My inner being knows different. If I feel unworthy, I'm always going to be out of sync with my inner being. If I think I can't do that, or I shouldn't do that, or somebody's better at that, every thought that you think, the emotion that you feel is your indicator of how it squares with who you really are is and what you really are knows, you see. So if you say, oh, I get this. I get this. I can feel my way into vibrational compliance with the successful source within me. I can feel my way into compliance. And we promise you, if you feel your way into vortextual compliance, the entire universe will comply with you and your desire. And time becomes irrelevant because it's all fun. Right? Did you hear that? Time becomes irrelevant. The gap won't bother you because it's all fun. It's fun feeling better than I just did. It's fun getting clearer than I just was. It's fun knowing more than I just knew. It's fun rendezvousing with others who know it too. It's fun watching the manifestational, co-creational dance that's coming in response to my improved vibration. My improved vibration. How fun it is to mold this vibrational clay. It's fun to mold the vibrational clay. The manifestation is not the main event. The molding of the clay and the energy in your belly is.
The potential for something right where you stand is huge if you can find a different frequency. Are you letting what is control your vibration? Right? Release all resistance. Bloom where you are. And that's really all any of us can do. We're emitters of a vibration that we can control. Other than that, there's nothing. That is what you control. Thank goodness. Because you can feel the way you want, even in situations that you normally are causing you anxiety and anger and all these things because you're resisting. You're saying these are wrong. This shouldn't be. This is unjust. The person that wrote in said, why are we judging? And don't put up with any negative emotion. Don't ask anyone to support the way you feel. She said, be very afraid if you are doing this. Once you show yourself that you can feel better in the spite of the things that really caused you pain and discomfort before, wow, you're like, okay, I think I have the formula here. And you will see the results. It can be no other way. Your job is to simply feel good pre-manifestation. You don't have to have the manifestation to feel better. You can access it vibrationally now. And that's really always the $1 million question. Is my opinion about what's happening squaring with the source within me? How does higher self view everything? Perfect. It understands all of it, all the ego behavior, dysfunction, the person learning, doing something that's unfair. It's all part of a bigger story of ultimate balance, right? So why are you judging the cake when it's still like it's cooked 3 minutes out of a 25-minute timer, right? Oh, that cake looks really messed up. It's not pretty at all. Look, it's all gooey and weird and flat. It's like you're judging something that's still cooking. I love how she said, feel your way into vortextual compliance. That's it. That's the job. We can all do that no matter where we're going to work each day, no matter who we're bumping up against. We can feel our way into vortextual compliance. And that is the biggest that is the Harvard education times infinity. Once you get that's all there is to do, just accept everything else and you do your work and watch how things start shifting effortlessly. It's no longer this hard, resistant thing that I'm locked in for years and years and years. You're locked in for years and years and years because you're not really feeling your way into vortextual compliance with the way your higher self views everything. And that's it. That's the answer. By the way, also, I said Derek Rydall, episode 627, 632. He was also on a long time ago, episode 381. I think it's 627. He tells the waiting table story, but I just wanted to throw them all out there just in case, because I really, really enjoyed those interviews with those powwows with Derek. Highly recommend that to our questioner, our anonymous questioner, our seeker, and any of you as well. If you haven't checked it out, I think you will. If you haven't heard him, you will definitely get a lot out of it. All right. That being said, I do have a song to leave you with, and there's some spoken word at the beginning by it's Cosmic Quest featuring it's Cosmic Quest. The song is Sea Salt and Silk featuring Ali Michelle, and I believe it's Ali speaking some beautiful words that go right along with the message of today's episode. And hope it resonates. Hope you love the song as much as I do. Love you all so much. Till next time, journey well. Also, if you're craving more consciousness elevating content, be sure to check out Gaia, which is my personal go-to source for streaming consciousness content on the web, where you can stream an incredible 7,000 plus exclusive videos covering 5,000 years of wisdom. As you all hear me constantly say, it's a daily conscious effort to maintain an elevated vibration. And if you're looking to journey deep down the rabbit hole to do so, then Gaia is the best place I know of to do it, period. And you can sign up for your first month for only 99 cents at gaia.com/positivehead. That's spelled GAIA.com/positivehead. Check it out.
Give a gift to each person you meet. If you knew their whole story, you'd find none of your judgments to be concrete. Imagine if every soul you meet is one of your guides. Look deeper and you may recognize them beneath their human disguise. For in the end, we are not so different, and all of us are equally significant. Our shells may vary in color and size, but we are connected through universal love inside. person is a reflection of your perspective, mirroring how much you have grown. Through a web of synchronicity, we are deeply connected, with each lesson learned, walking each other home. Pay close attention to the language of the heart. You'll hear its whisper in silence. If you're present enough, you'll experience